Hey everybody, welcome to another Q webinar. We are excited today to be here and present to you a really amazing resource that I just discovered myself and got lost in it. Cannot recommend it enough. Very excited. I'm Ray Fearing, Director of Programs for Q, and here with me is Elizabeth Holloway. Hey Elizabeth. And she is our Member Services Coordinator, and we are excited to introduce to you the team from Cesar Chavez National Monument, who are going to share some amazing resources. I'm recording this session. It will be available on our YouTube channel and also at q.org. Take it away, Erin.
All right. Thank you, Ray. And thank you, Q. Hello, friends. And I say that because I have had the opportunity to work with Q educators throughout my career, specifically with California State Parks. But I am now the park superintendent at Cesar E. Chavez National Monument with the National Park Service. And we have an incredible digital resource available here. And when I was thinking about how can I get this digital resource into the hands of the teachers and educators who are going to know how to use this digital resource to connect their students to a place that they otherwise may not be able to visit, I returned back to my roots of being a ports presenter and a ports coordinator with California State Parks. And so that is how we found our way to you. So I am grateful to have the opportunity. Thank you, Ray and Elizabeth, for making this possible. And as I mentioned, I am the superintendent at a small little national monument that has a really huge story. Cesar E. Chavez National Monument is located in Keene, California, which is about 20 miles east of Bakersfield. And this is the heart and the home of the United Farm Worker Movement, and where Cesar and his wife Helen spent the last years of their lives. So this park is telling a story not just of these two incredible human beings that dedicated their life to a cause, but it's also telling the story of all of the people that were a part of the farm worker movement that were dedicating their lives to making the lives of others better, the lives of the people who put food on our tables better. Before we go into the actual digital experience that we have to share with you, I wanted to introduce you to a very special member of our team, Bernadette Farinas.
Hello. Hi, my name is Bernadette Farinas, and I'm one of Cesar and Helen's granddaughters. I've worked here for over 20 years prior to the Park Service coming in. So I've been here for quite a while, and the most important job to me is to make sure that my grandparents' legacy is continued, and also to make sure that my grandparents are well taken care of. So it's so important that you all get to come or virtually see how my grandparents lived, because not everyone gets that opportunity. So for you to be able to walk in to see a home that people don't realize that is my grandparents' home, is a very simple home, and I think a lot of people can relate to it. It looks like your grandparents' home or even your own home. My grandparents lived a very humble, normal life. And what I want you all to take away from is that they were ordinary people just like you and I. And ordinary people did something they can do something pretty extraordinary. And I want you to know that, yes, my grandparents did do something pretty extraordinary, had a lot of sacrifices, not only with my grandparents, but farm workers as well. But I want people to see that they were just very normal human beings. And when you walk through, I want you to see how normal they lived, and also that you and I can make a difference in this world.
Absolutely. And as Bernadette has been sharing, the specific virtual experience that we're going to share with you today is giving you and your students all an opportunity to explore something that you would not be able to explore if you actually were able to bring your students here on a field trip. The home of Cesar and Helen is one of the properties that's owned and managed by the National Park Service, in addition to a visitor center and the memorial garden where Cesar and Helen are laid to rest. But the home is not open to the public. So this virtual experience that we are about to share with you is our way of welcoming you in to Cesar and Helen Chavez's home. And as Bernadette so eloquently put, what we find is that when people step into their home, they recognize themselves in that home. They see features that are in their grandparents' houses, and they see that ordinary people really did do extraordinary things. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our partner, Whitney Peterson, who was instrumental in helping us develop this virtual experience through the Cyark Tapestry app. And Whitney is going to walk you through some of the features and including some of the educational tools like lesson plans that can go along with this Tapestry virtual experience. Thanks, Whitney.
Thank you so much, Ray, Erin, and Bernadette, and excited to be here today and walk you through this really great resource. So, as mentioned, my name is Whitney. I'm a senior producer at Cyark, and Cyark is a nonprofit organization, and our work is really focused on the digital documentation of cultural heritage that is utilized for purposes of preservation, but also for creating these educational resources that people can utilize to access these incredible places, as well as the stories of people who are really foundational to the heart of these places and why these places are so meaningful. So I had the really great opportunity to be part of this partnership working with the National Park Service and got to go out to Cesar Chavez National Monument and digitally document the Chavez home and create this virtual experience. So as Erin mentioned, I'm going to walk through and give you all a preview of this resource and this tool, as well as a window into some of the educational content and the stories that you can engage with. I won't be able to go through everything, all the stories that are in there, so I encourage folks to do a deep dive on their own and really explore everything that this tool has to offer. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so everyone can see that. So what you see here is the opening page for this virtual tour experience. And so this provides an introduction into the place and the home, the primary theme you'll be exploring. And then you'll see here at the bottom, there's two buttons, one for English and one for Spanish. So you can choose to go through this tour in either language. And then we have the start button here. So once you hit the start button, you dive right into the virtual tour experience. So I'm just going to dive right in and let it play. And then I'll walk you through the different kind of assets that are available through the Tapestry platform, as well as touch on the different locations and stories that you can follow along the way.
Welcome to the virtual tour of the Cesar E. Chavez National Monument in Keene, California. In the 1970s, Cesar Chavez and his wife Helen made this place not only a family home, but also the pulsating heart of the farm worker movement. The simple white two-bedroom home served as a peaceful sanctuary and central hub for the Chavez family, nestled in the heart of the community, which came to be known as La Paz. Today, several members of Chavez's family continue to live at La Paz, carrying on the legacy of their parents in partnership with the National Park Service. Join Park Ranger Miranda Hernandez and 3 of Cesar and Helen's descendants as they share memories of this historic home and some of the quieter moments central to the farm worker movement.
So the voice that you heard is the narrator who really guides you through this this tapestry tour, and you'll see the closed captions down here as the narrator speaks at each location that we're going to visit. And on the left-hand side, you'll notice some images of different folks. And I think what's really exciting about this platform and this particular experience, as we mentioned, that you get to actually connect with descendants of Cesar and Helen Chavez, Bernadette's family, as well as Park Ranger Miranda Hernandez. So when we click on their images, we get to see who we're going to hear from. So Paul Chavez, Eloise Carrillo, Anthony Chavez, and Miranda Hernandez. So what I'm going to do as we move through the experience is I'm just going to mute the narrator and walk you through the different locations and kind of stories that we'll be connecting with. And then I'm going to be playing some of the interviews and video clips and stories that many of these folks have to share, so you can get some insight into what you can connect with through the virtual experience. So there are these arrows here on the bottom, and this is what guides you through the whole tour, from going from one location to the next. So I'm gonna hit the next arrow and go to this first location. And so this is really providing some context about how this home is really connected to this broader farm worker movement, as well as the broader landscape of this national monument. And so you'll see that the closed captions here is playing. I have it muted at the moment. But on the right-hand side, you'll also see these additional features of multimedia images that you can click on that support, the story that's being shared at each location that we visit. So if you click on this, you can see a map of the National Monument and where the home is relative to other aspects of the landscape. Here and throughout the rest of the experience, you'll see images from present day, as well as primary resources, such as historic images that support the story that's being shared at these locations. And so once the narrator is done speaking at each location, I'm just going to kind of hit this next button to jump ahead to the end of that narration. You'll see on the left-hand side, these quotes activate from the different speakers that are sharing their stories throughout the experience. So I'm going to share a little clip here from Anthony Chavez, who talks about how this home is connected to Cesar's daily and morning routine, and how that also is connected to the surrounding landscape. Oh, let me unmute that here.
My father would get up very early in the morning, and do different things. He would do yoga. He would host a radio show from his kitchen table. We hooked up a machine with headphones, and he would, do an early morning show. But when he would walk in the morning to his office, or he would walk up to the hill to meditate, it was always the same route. He would come this way with his dogs, Boycott and Welly, his German Shepherds, walk to work down the hill and up to his office. And a lot of times he'd use his back door. There were stairs that went up, but they're not there no more. And they were kind of like strategically placed. You had to know where to step, or else the thing would fall apart. He would walk up it, and you would see the boards. But most of the time you go to the front office, but it was always this route he would take. Even when he went to go to the top of the mountain to meditate, it was always this route. And that route would take him pretty close to where he lies today. Him and my mother lie today, on his way up to the hill to meditate.
That gives you some initial insight, and we'll hear from more folks as we move through the experience. But just really powerful personal anecdotes about the family and the landscape here. So I'm going to move to the next location, which is Helen's Park, which was a really important place for Helen Chavez, where she gardened and really made sure this place was beautiful. And it was also really significant as a space where the family would gather for events, holidays, and occasions, as well as the broader community. So here on the right, you can click on media items, these historic resources, and then once that narration is finished, then these voices activate on the left-hand side. So definitely encourage people to explore these further. So as we move closer to the entrance of the home, we start to learn more about, really the commitment that Helen and Cesar had to this place, and really their personal connection to the struggles that farm workers experienced, and how this home was really part of their decision to address those injustices, both for their family and for broader communities. So I'm going to play another clip here from Paul Chavez that gives us a little bit more of that really the depth of that personal insight into the home.
When he decided to give up the most secure life he ever lived, he was living in East Los Angeles. He was the staff director for a Latino community rights organization, the CSO, and he was living a middle-class life. You see pictures of him. He looked like Clark Gable. He had his Brooks Brothers suits and little ties and little pencil mustache, and his hair was slicked back. And even back then, he used to smoke, and he had his like cigarette cases with the monograms. He was driving a Volvo. How many Chicanos were driving Volvos in the late 50s? Well, that was my dad. He was on a course to a comfortable middle-class life. But this idea that farm workers continue to labor under difficult conditions and for terrible wages, he was never able to reconcile himself with the idea that he would be doing that while people continued to live the life that he'd lived. And so him and my mom made the decision that something had to be done about it. My mom would talk about the times that he would come home from trips with the CSO, and he would tell her, I drove through the Central Valley and I saw people working the fields, bent over all day in the hot sun in terrible conditions. Somebody should do something about it. And she would listen because she agreed, because she lived the same life. But she said that it got old after a while. And it got to the point that one day when he came home and he said that, she looked him in the eye and she said, well, why don't you do something about it? And then he says, well, you know what that means? She goes, I know what it means. It meant that they would give up the most comfortable life they had. They had 8 children, right? The oldest was 13, I believe. The youngest was still in diapers. They would give up the most comfortable and secure life they'd ever lived. They would return to the fields. And my mother would have to go back and work in the fields, not only to put food on the table for her kids, but to give my dad gas money so he could drive up and down the state talking to farm workers about this idea that they could organize a union for farm workers and make a difference. Yeah, so he understood the enormity of it, but I think that when she challenged him, really she was telling him is that I'm with you if you want to do this, because she grew up in the same conditions as my father. She had to drop out of school in the 8th grade because she had to help her mother feed her brothers and sisters. She lived in a converted horse barn, and so she understood the dignities that people faced. And so when my father said he wanted to do something about it, she was game because she was cut from the same thread. When he decided to
really important and powerful insight there from Paul into that decision that really paved the way for the life that was created here at La Paz. So from the entrance in this virtual experience, we then move into the home by clicking the next button. And we move into the kitchen, which was another really important place that people talk about for Helen, who cooked many family meals here and meals for the broader community as well. And so if we kind of jump ahead past the narration, we'll see another feature here that gets activated on the bottom with this orange magnifying glass. So when you click on that, you can at certain locations, you can engage with different parts of the landscape and of the home. So here, when you click on that, you can dive deeper into the story of the spoon collection. And so you'll find that gets activated during certain parts of the tour as you move through the space, and allows you to dive deeper into these stories. So from the kitchen, we will move into the living room here, which people talk about as being really significant for the family social life here and visiting. So I'll play one more clip here from Eloise that gives some really nice insight into family life in this space.
My sister and I used to take care of my mom when her health declined. She couldn't really do much. So when I would come to relieve my sister, first thing I'd do is look at the picture and I'd say, oh, okay, Julia was here. My mom would say, how do you know? I says, because she's moved her picture right in the front. So you could always tell who was here last. It's like, no, Nana, you have to have, I'm your favorite. You have to have my picture here. And my mom would say, "You're all, I don't have a favorite. You're all my favorite." No, Nana, tell the truth. I'm telling the truth. Anyway, so that's the thing with the pictures.
A big family that you can see definitely throughout the space and through all the pictures here in the living room. So this is another scene where you can activate the further explore mode, where you can click on pictures on the wall and dive deeper into the stories of this room. From here, we focus on the crosses on the wall over here and dive into the importance of faith and religion as part of, family life, but also as part of the foundation of values for this broader movement. And then the final scene here is summarizing, what folks have learned throughout the experience and really highlighting the ongoing significance of this place today and, really this living history, and particularly with the family, living in the area and continuing this work. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into how to move through this space and really utilize this virtual tour platform. And there's a lot to dive into here, so I encourage folks to take a look at that. Also on our website, we have a number of educational resources that teachers can utilize. We worked with teachers to develop lesson plans. So we have a series of 4 different lessons that folks can use. These lessons are focused mostly on middle school to high school age, and they are grounded in standards based in history and social science for California public schools. So how to dive deeper into that is you can click on these links, open up the lesson plans, and dive into those materials. So we have that both in PDF and Word format so that folks can kind of mix and match those resources there. And then in addition to those resources on Cyark's website, the National Park Service also has educational resources on their website as well. And I can let Erin talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thank you, Whitney. In addition to the great lesson plans that Cyark has put together that are woven with the tapestry experience in mind as a way of enhancing those experiences, we also have other lesson plans and just content that you're able to connect to specifically for elementary, since a majority of the lesson plans that Whitney was referencing are for middle and high school. And so I would encourage all of you to explore this document as well. And again, you can pick and choose, what pieces of this you would want to use to kind of enhance your learning experience. But it's broken up into sections for elementary, middle school, and high school. And it's found on our website, and I'll be putting these links in the chat as well.
Thank you, Erin. And then with the last couple of minutes we have here, just also wanted to show some other resources and virtual experiences that we've created that might be really helpful tools for you all in the classroom. So if you go to tapestry.cyark.org, you can explore our library of virtual experiences. There's a number here that relate to US history and California history that might be useful. One recent example is a project that we did at Pearl Harbor with the USS Utah Memorial, where we documented that site. You can move through this space. You can learn from expert historians and interpreters, and something that's also really exciting about this resource is you can actually engage with oral histories from survivors who are sharing their stories and insights. Another interesting resource that we worked on is one at Angel Island State Park that's located in the Bay Area here near where I'm located, that there's many layers of history related to this site, and this particular experience is focusing on the World War II experience of Japanese Americans who are incarcerated at the immigration station. So there's a lot to dive into here with the history of this specific location. And then another experience that we recently launched was one at Mesa Verde National Park in Colorado that really highlights Indigenous history. And with this project, we documented Cliff Palace, one of the largest cliff dwellings at Mesa Verde National Park. And in addition to archaeologists who work at the site, you can also hear from members of descendant communities who still have ongoing connections to these places and kind of the significance of what these places mean to them. So there's quite a bit to dive into. Some of our projects, I will say, are based in the US, but we have a lot of work that we do internationally. So I encourage folks to dive in and take a look. And many of these projects we've done in direct collaboration with heritage managers and community members, and really trying to highlight those voices of people who are really connected to these places and incorporate, primary resources and a lot of tools that you might want to utilize in the classroom to help students learn about history and heritage. So that kind of wraps up my end of the demo here and deep dive into the resource, and just want to thank Ray and the National Park Service for this opportunity. And we always love to hear from folks who are utilizing these resources, so please do not hesitate to reach out.
And Ray, if it's okay, I have like one more parting thought I wanted to say is, as an educator myself, that my classroom has been a park for the last 15 years. One of the things that has been one of my greatest motivations when it comes to digital tools is that it breaks down the barriers to access. And I, as a person that grew up in Los Angeles, California, did not have a lot of access to all of these incredible national parks. And so I didn't have a lot of connection to them either. But by you bringing our parks into your classrooms, you're letting your students realize that they are their parks too. And you're encouraging them to find their place in the stories that our parks are protected to tell. And we've never needed help with protecting our parks more than ever, as we do right now. And so by inspiring students to connect to the history and the culture and the natural beauty that is found in our parks, you are helping us create stewards for decades and generations into the future for these incredibly special places. So thank you from the bottom of our heart as educators working in parks for helping connect your students to these places, because digital access will equal and increase our physical access, because that's how people will become aware of these places and be inspired to go.
Thank you. Thank you for the great resources. This absolutely highlights one of the important things that CUE does is connect educators to digital tools that enhance learning for students. And there's so much here to dive into. I see something for every teacher. So thank you. Thank you for sharing. Again, this will be available at CUE.org for members, and we will also post this video on our YouTube channel. And is there an email address or any other information you'd like to share if people have questions?
Absolutely. I'm going to be posting a survey in the chat, and it'll just allow you to fill out that quick survey with your name and your email, and then we can be able to send you additional resources, and including links to all the resources that you've already seen on this tour. So I'll go ahead and put that in the chat as well.
Thank you. And again, visit CUE.org to learn more. And we thank you for being here.